Good afternoon. Hope you had a happy Thanksgiving. Well, good afternoon. I'm excited to be here for today's announcement. I want to recognize some of the folks we have with us here. We have FDLE Commissioner Rick Swearengin. We have Eric Sutton, the Executive Director, Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. And then we have Chief Mark Brown from the Florida Highway Patrol. We have been going over some of the announcements as part of our budget. We'll do the full budget next week, and I think people will be really pleased with our fiscal outlook. But we were able to talk about some of the things we're doing, huge investments in education. We're doing a lot with environmental quality and water resources, and there'll be other segments that I think are very, very important. One of the things we're most proud of is in this budget that we'll be unveiling is what we're going to do to support the men and women of law enforcement. And as most of you remember, you go back last year, the summer of 2020, you had huge movements in different parts of the country, municipalities, even state levels, to attack law enforcement, to defund law enforcement. And many municipalities did take a huge chunk out of their law enforcement budgets, and now they're racing to try to figure out how to get it back in because crime has skyrocketed. And it's truly been one of the most disastrous policies that anyone's ever tried to implement, this whole defund law enforcement. And you see the effects of this every single day in jurisdictions that indulge with poor policies when they're soft on crime. You look at people getting let out without bail now. You just let them right out in different states and different parts of the country. That has catastrophic consequences for public safety. And so, I'm proud to say, even when that was kind of the cause du jour of the media in Florida, we never budged an inch here. We stood with law enforcement the entire time. Last summer, we made clear we had their back. We wanted to make sure our communities were kept safe. And we wanted to show our appreciation that as other jurisdictions were defunding law enforcement or taking money away, that we would fund and then some. And so the budget that I signed for this current fiscal year included $1,000 bonuses for every sworn law enforcement officer, first responder, and EMT who've been working so hard throughout the pandemic in the entire state of Florida. And so we're really happy to do that. And most people that have come up to me or written into our office, it's nice to get money. Obviously, it's not like you're getting super wealthy doing public service, but more than just the money was just the thought, because it showed that the state of Florida supported the people who were wearing the uniform, and that really meant an awful lot for folks. So we were proud to be cutting against the grain, standing for truth the whole time, and delivering some, I think, much-needed bonuses. And so we're here today to talk about, well, how do we build off this success in this coming year's budget? And I'm proud to say that in the budget that we'll be unveiling next week, our law enforcement portion of that budget, we will be able to re-up the $1,000 bonuses for all sworn law enforcement, all fire rescue, and all EMTs for the second year in a row. So that's really meaningful, and we're proud that we're able to do that. But we also are going to do much more than that. For the upcoming session in our budget, we're going to have some long-term support, particularly for state law enforcement agencies, and we are going to be putting our money where our mouth is. So we're going to be recommending to the legislature $73 million to increase the minimum pay for entry-level sworn state law enforcement officers by 20% to help our state law enforcement agencies recruit more law enforcement officers. Additionally, and maybe most importantly for the folks we have here, my proposal also includes an increase in pay of 25% for all other state sworn law enforcement personnel to help our state law enforcement agencies retain the folks we already have, and also to reward them for hard work serving and protecting Floridians. So that is going to be huge. You're talking about Highway Patrol, you're talking about Fish and Wildlife, FDLE, all these folks that have been working to see a 25% increase. That's meaningful, and I think that shows our commitment. We're also proposing $124 million to increase salaries for correctionals officers at our state prisons. So that'll bring the base salary up to $20 an hour, and these increases will help the agency hire and retain officers so they can continue to keep Floridians safe and prisoners secure. We've already made progress on this front. as many of you know, with the Legislative Budget Committee, and this proposal builds off those discussions. At the end of the day, we need to retain people, we need to attract people, and the compensation is a big part of that. We're also going to put more than $11 million for the Department of Juvenile Justice to bring the minimum pay for juvenile detention officers to $17 per hour and $19 per hour for juvenile probation officers. And finally, in addition to standing up for those who keep us safe from crime, I'm also recommending more than $1 million for our state special risk firefighters to increase their salaries by up to $2,500 a person. Now, increasing salaries for state law enforcement by 20% and 25% respectively is going to make a real difference for those officers. It will make a real difference for their families. It will help retain a lot of the talented people we have, as well as recruit new people into our highway patrol, into Fish and Wildlife, and into FDLE. And this announcement is in addition to what we'll also have in the budget, which I did announce earlier, are our incentives to recruit new people into law enforcement, whether that's from out of state transferring in. There's a huge demand for a lot of the folks in law enforcement to come to Florida, given how they've been treated in a lot of these places around the country, places like Portland and Seattle and Minneapolis and New York. It's not been a good. The morale is low. And so we view that as an opportunity as we have needs in our law enforcement agencies. If you're coming from out of state, or if you're new to law enforcement and you're joining for the first time, you will be eligible for a $5,000 signing bonus, and that is state or local agencies will be able to do that. We're also going to be, as I mentioned in our previous announcement, providing the state officer certification exam free of charge to law enforcement officers relocating to Florida, and covering the cost of any necessary equivalent training programs for relocating officers up to $1,000 per officers. We're also, in addition to that, creating a Law Enforcement Academy scholarship program to cover the cost of enrollment for men and women seeking to serve their state and communities through law enforcement. And for those attending a private academy, an amount equal to the average tuition and fees incurred at a public institution will be covered. And so this is probably the most robust package that's been proposed probably anywhere in the country. We feel that it's warranted. We also feel it's the right thing to do, and we feel that we have an opportunity strategically to get an advantage and to recruit not just great people in our state to go into it, which we'll do, but also some of the best throughout the country who are looking for greener pastures. And so we're proud of this. I think we'll get strong support in the legislature for it. And I'm just happy to be able to be leading the effort and leading the charge here. I want Chief Mark Brown from the Highway Patrol to be able to come up and say a few things.
Thank you, Governor. On behalf of the Florida Highway Patrol and all state law enforcement, I'd like to extend our sincere appreciation to the Governor DeSantis for his unwavering support for the men and women in law enforcement, not only in our state, but across the country. You know, as we celebrated Thanksgiving just recently, I couldn't help but, think about how grateful I am for the governor's leadership and for his willingness to do the right thing and what's best for the people of our state. This pay proposal will go a long way to support our current members who do a great job day in and day out. Our state law enforcement officers provide a vital service to our state, and they just are very deserving of this increase. In addition, the pay raise along with the hiring bonuses, as the governor said, will help us fill our vacancies. Recruiting highly qualified law enforcement officers who are dedicated to public service is more important now than ever. This will make Florida's state law enforcement salaries much more competitive, and again, as the governor said, hopefully get them to stay within law enforcement or state law enforcement and not go to other agencies. The governor's made it clear since day one that he supports law and order, and that he supports law enforcement and the important function we play in our communities. But the proposal sends a clear message not only to our members who, again, do a great job, but it also sends a clear message to our families, our spouses, our kids, our parents, and just shows that Florida's leadership truly cares and appreciates what we do out there on the road. So again, thank you, Governor, for being a champion for the great men and women of law enforcement. We appreciate what you do. Thank you.